All right, let's jump right in, shall we? Exodus 13 today, and whoa, this chapter is packed.
Mm.
Symbolism, ancient wisdom, stuff that still matters, even now.
You're not kidding. Talk about a pivotal moment, the Israelites, finally free from generations in Egypt, like taking their first baby steps toward freedom.
You know, it really makes you think about what that must have felt like. So much uncertainty, so much ahead of them.
Exactly. And right off the bat, some pretty powerful instructions come down.
Right. Let's break it down a little. One of the first things that kind of jumps out at me is this command to consecrate the firstborn, like all firstborn sons and firstborn male animals dedicated to God.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy stuff. Powerful statement. Like they're saying the best we have, the first fruits of our freedom, that belongs to something way bigger than just us.
I see what you mean. Almost like an act of ultimate gratitude, recognizing that life and blessings come from somewhere else, something higher.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, right? Because it makes you think, what would that look like today? Like in our lives?
Yeah, what are firstborns, so to speak?
Right. The things we hold most dear. The things we maybe could dedicate to something bigger than ourselves.
That's a great point. Like maybe our time, our talents, our attention.
It's a really powerful question.
And, speaking of powerful and, well, maybe a little strange, there's this whole festival of unleavened bread. 7 days. No yeast. Can you
Oh,
imagine?
yeah. No yeast. What's the deal with that, right?
Exactly. What's the deeper meaning there? I mean, was it just a dietary thing?
Well, it was definitely a powerful way to connect with their past, you know? Think about it. They had to flee Egypt so fast they didn't even have time for the bread to rise.
That's true.
So every year, they're reliving that experience, that feeling of urgency, by abstaining from leavened bread. It's like a physical reminder.
I like that. Like more than just saying, oh, yeah, I remember that time. It's like they're physically reliving it, keeping that memory alive.
Mm-hmm. Keeps it real, generation after generation. Makes you think about what we do today to connect with our own personal histories, you know?
Yeah.
To keep those memories alive.
I know what you mean. It's a good question. What do you do? I mean, what are some things that help you connect to your own past, like to your roots?
It's funny you should ask. It makes you think about traditions, right? Whether it's like a family thing or a religious practice.
Definitely. Rituals, those things that anchor us.
Exactly. They connect us to our roots, and they shape who we are, sometimes without us even realizing it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And speaking of shaping who we are, the Israelites, their journey is just starting. And they're literally walking into the unknown. I mean, can you imagine that?
Oh, for sure. A vast wilderness. No map, no GPS. What do they have? How do they even know which way to go?
Right, exactly. And that's where those crazy pillars of cloud and fire come in. I mean, talk about a visual.
Can't miss those. By day, the cloud leading the way. By night, a pillar of fire.
Wow. Constant reminders of divine presence, right?
Yeah.
Like guiding them, protecting them. I mean, come on.
It's like their cosmic GPS.
I love that. Cosmic GPS. Leading us step by step. But even with that, I can't help but think there must have been moments, right, where they doubted, where that fire seemed more intimidating than comforting.
Totally. That's what makes it so relatable, though, isn't it? I mean, we all need those pillars in our lives, those things we cling to when things get tough. You know what I mean? Like our own sources of guidance and support.
Absolutely. A mentor, a good book, maybe even just like the unwavering support of someone you love. What about you? What are your pillars? What guides you when you're like in your own wilderness?
That's a good one. Well, maybe we should say that for next time. I need to think about that one. It really is something to think about, isn't it? Those pillars, both literal and, well, metaphorical. Like they play such a huge role. I mean, the Israelites, they had like this actual physical sign. But for us, it's often different, more about that inner compass,
I get what you mean, that sense of like knowing which way to go, even when you can't see the path ahead.
Exactly. And honestly, that takes a lot of faith, right?
Oh, yeah. Faith in yourself, faith in something bigger, faith that even when you're lost, you'll find your way. It's like that quote, leap in the net will appear. Have you heard that one?
I have, yeah. I think about that a lot, actually.
Me too.
It's all about trusting the process, even when it's like totally uncomfortable or when it makes you question everything.
Right.
I mean, the Israelites, they had to trust that God was leading them to a better place, even though they couldn't see it. We have to do the same thing, in a way.
Trust that the journey, bumps and all, is leading us somewhere good. Easier said than done, though. Right?
Absolutely. So then the question becomes, how do we do it? How do we build that resilience, that trust, especially when, life gets hard?
Yeah. What do you think? Any ideas?
Well, for me, it starts with accepting something. like those tough times, those wilderness moments, they're going to happen.
That's fair.
It's not about avoiding them. It's about learning how to deal with them with like grace and courage and all that. And that's where I think Exodus 13 is so helpful, even today.
Yeah. So let's get practical. How do we actually use these like ancient ideas in our lives now?
Well, good point. We talked about consecration, right? Dedicating your best to something bigger than yourself.
Right.
Obviously, we're not talking about like literal firstborn sons anymore, but it's the same idea. Find the things you care about most.
Your time, your talents.
Exactly. Your resources. And then ask yourself, like, how can I use these to do good, to make a difference?
Ooh, I like that. It's like a total shift, right?
It is.
Instead of always asking, what's in it for me, it's like, how can I help, you know?
That's it. And I think it's a good way to fight against that sense of entitlement that kind of creeps into our lives sometimes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's about gratitude, about realizing we've been given these gifts, these blessings, and it's our job to use them well, generously.
Well said. What about the Festival of Unleavened Bread, though? Does that even apply anymore? Like, what's the 21st century version of that?
You know, for me, it's a reminder about rituals, remembrance, that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
It's easy to get caught up in the craziness of life. You know what I mean? Like always looking ahead, always busy. We forget to like stop and appreciate where we are.
I know exactly what you mean. It's like I'm always rushing to the next thing.
Right. And we rarely take time to like enjoy the moment or honor the past.
So true.
But those moments, those times when you actually reflect, they're crucial.
What do you think are some good ways to do that?
Well, it could be anything, really. Journaling, meditating, maybe just spending time in nature.
Oh, yeah. Or even just talking to your family, telling stories.
Exactly. Those things keep us grounded, connected to our roots, and, you know, grateful for what we have.
I love that, like little anchors.
That's a great way to put it. And it doesn't have to be this big formal thing. It could be as simple as like lighting a candle every week for someone you admire, or taking a few minutes to like be thankful for the good stuff in your life.
Exactly. Just find something that works for you, something that helps you appreciate the journey, even when it's tough.
That's the key. And that brings us back to those pillars, right? Those things that guide us and support us when things get rough.
Right.
It could be a mentor, a therapist, a close friend, even that quiet voice inside you.
Yeah.
It's about knowing you're not alone, that there's help out there. But in the end, it comes down to trusting yourself, trusting that you're strong enough to get through anything, like the Israelites did.
And they did it step by step, guided by that fire in the night.
And you know, that fire, it's not just about someone else leading the way. It's about that fire inside you, that passion, that drive that keeps you moving, even when you're not sure where you're going.
I love that, finding that spark, that belief that you can do anything.
Exactly. It's about building a life that matters, a life that's, you know, fulfilling.
It's amazing, right? Like these stories from Exodus,
Yeah.
so old, but they still have so much to say about like life today.
It's true. The human experience, you know, it kind of transcends time. The Israelites, their struggles, their victories, even their doubts, it's all stuff we still deal with.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Exodus 13, what's the one thing you really hope sticks with our listener, like the key takeaway?
I think it's this. Even way back then, people were wrestling with the same stuff we do. Gratitude, dedication, needing guidance, and taking that leap of faith when everything feels uncertain.
Yeah. Like we're all part of this bigger story, right?
Yeah.
Connected by all these shared experiences and these like timeless truths.
And it's not just about recognizing that we're connected. It's about learning from those experiences. Like, what can we learn from the Israelites? What wisdom can we like pull out from their journey and use in our own lives?
What do you think? What stands out to you the most?
Well, we talked about rituals, right? Remembering it's so important, especially now when everything's so fast-paced.
Right. Always got to be on, got to be doing something.
Exactly. So we need to make time to reflect, to be grateful, to reconnect with what really matters.
Like hitting the pause button, remembering who we are, where we came from.
That's a good way to put it. It's like recalibrating so we can move forward with like purpose.
And of course, we can't forget about those pillars, both, you know, the literal ones and the metaphorical ones. Those things that give us support when we're lost.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A good friend, a mentor, maybe a spiritual practice, or even just that little voice inside you.
It's all about recognizing those sources of strength
Yeah.
and like actually leaning on them when things get tough.
Right. And it comes down to trust, trusting yourself, trusting in something bigger, just like the Israelites did, step by step, guided by that fire in the darkness.
And you know what? That fire, it's not just about someone else leading us. It's about the fire we have inside us, right? Our own passion, what drives us, what keeps us moving forward even when we're scared.
Exactly. Finding that spark, that belief in yourself that you can get through anything.
It's a powerful stuff. So as we leave everyone with all this to think about, I have a question. What are your pillars? What guides you? How can you tap into that same resilience, that faith that helped the Israelites overcome so much? Something to ponder, for sure.
Great questions. Really makes you think.
This has been amazing. Such a great deep dive into Exodus 13. I feel like we've learned so much, and we've barely scratched the surface. Until next time, keep searching, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.